Good evening. My name is Len Monson. I'm with the law firm of Kuhn, Heap & Monson, 552 South Washington, here in Naperville. And tonight I'm representing the Petitioner, the Islamic Center of Naperville, also known as ICN. In their petition for a conditional use and 2 variances for a religious facility on their property located on 248th Avenue. Now, as always, Sarah did a great job giving us a general overview, and there are things I'd like to go over in a little bit more detail. However, before I do, I would like to first comment on the extraordinary number of comments that have been raised by the community. It is absolutely marvelous to see the degree of interest in this project. I mean, we even got emails from out of the country. However, it is very clear from the comments that we received so far that there is a very great misunderstanding of the details. And that these objections are based on incorrect information. So I think before I get going here, I'd like to get a better understanding, or give a better understanding, and address the incorrect information. So excuse me as I interrupt my regularly scripted presentation and first bring you some facts. I think the best place to start will be with the flyer that one of our neighboring homeowners associations, and hang on here. Let's see, are you seeing me or my screen, or my slide?
We see both.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to get oh, there we go. So this flyer was circulated to residents of the neighboring homeowners association, and also very quickly circulated to many other residents in the southwest area of Naperville. The flyer raises multiple factual concerns. Number one, it states that the proposed height of the structure is 80 feet. Number two, that the ICN intends for this facility to be the largest in the Midwest. Number three, it states that we're requesting 2 variances to not construct a buffer fence. Number four, it's objecting to the fact that this facility is going to be built in a residential area. And number five, that the construction is being phased in 5 phases over the next 40 years. I believe a vast number of objections are based on this incorrect information as represented, as represented in this flyer. So let's review the 5 points. The first is the 80-foot structure height. 80 feet is just not accurate. It's the tallest building roof height is actually 29 feet, not 80, it's 29 feet. So to put that in perspective, our neighboring residences are allowed to have a structure on their single family homes, a height of 35 feet. So we're actually lower than our neighboring residences and still not 80 feet. Now I can see where this misunderstanding came from. In our 3rd phase in 2040, my client intends to construct an 84-foot minaret. Think steeple, not a structure. Please note that under city code, steeples and domes are not included in roof height restriction calculations. Now, let's see what currently exists in the city regarding steeples and domes. This is St. Mary Church. You can see the slant roof and the steeple clearly exceed 35 feet. The same with Compass Church. Good Shepherd too. Now, I'm not an engineer, and I do not know exactly how tall the roofs and steeples are in these prior 3 slides I've shown. But I can assure you that the roof, dome, and spire at Saints Peter and Paul far, far exceeds 84 feet. The important point is that the steeples and domes of our existing places of worship have not negatively impacted our thriving communities. Just as our proposed plan will not negatively impact our neighboring communities. The next point raised in the flyer is that we intend this to be, we're trying to construct the largest mosque in the Midwest. We have absolutely no idea where this claim came from. It's not in any of our materials. It's not our intent. As a matter of fact, it's not even factually close. Currently, in Villa Park and Bridgeview, there are two, you might be able to call them regional mosques, that are much, much larger than what we're planning. Those exist right now. This site is intended to serve our Naperville community and the contiguous areas in conjunction with ICN's 3 existing facilities. Now, we're not replacing, we're going to still keep the 3 facilities we have, and we'll have a total of 4. This is not a replacement. To put our planned size into proper perspective, it is important to compare our capacity with the capacity of the existing houses of worship we are already familiar with. By way of example, Saints Peter and Paul, an old, venerable, but great institution here in Naperville, its current capacity is in excess of 1,300 parishioners. In our first 4 phases of construction, ICN is physically limited to a maximum of 692, half that size. Even at our full intended capacity, which comes in phase 5 in the year 2060, our physical capacity is limited to 1,146 worshipers, which is less than the existing St. Peter's and Paul Church. And St. Peter's and Paul is currently a cohesively existing religious facility in the neighborhoods, in our neighborhood, has had no adverse effect on the neighborhoods in the least, just as our capacity won't affect our neighbors. Regarding variances mentioned in the flyer, the flyer is correct. We are requesting 2 small variances, and both these variances are supported by the city, as Sarah noted earlier. However, it is incorrect to say that that the variance is not to build a buffer fence, while at the same time imply that there is no buffer between our project and tall grass. Now, what's happened here is, I'll go back to that flyer. If you see right here, they've got a schematic of our intended site, and that is absolutely our site, with one exception. I suppose it just didn't fit on here, but it's leaving off the 200 feet from this area right here, going to our east, where the tall grass homeowners subdivision is right now. So there's 200 feet not shown in here. So I can understand some great concern from neighbors not seeing that. Hang on. In addition to that, it's interesting to note that, so that area I'm talking about is this area right here. This is where the flyer's dimensions ended, and here's where our property line ends. And here's tall grass over here to the far east. That is a 200-foot buffer. It's 130 feet of detention open space area and 70 feet of land-banked parking, which I'll discuss more in a few minutes. So, regarding our other variance regarding the variances, as Sarah noted, we are requesting to not build a fence here on the north side. From the way that the flyer was drafted, it appeared that we were not going to have a buffer between the neighbors and our property. There is no question we're going to have the required 6-foot privacy fence and extensive landscaping on the south property line and on the east property line, buffering our site from our neighbors. It's on the north property line that we are not. The reason for that is this is the tall grass greenway. We saw no reason to put a 6-foot fence up here, blocking the view of a nice open area, and also considering that our neighbors, closest neighbors on that side, are over 200 feet away. But I'll talk about that variance in a few more minutes. The next point in my the next point raised on the flyer is the fact that we are building this facility in a residential area. And a vast majority of the emailed objections are very concerned about this facility being built in a residential area. The answer to why our religious facility is being built in a residential area is very simple. That is where they are supposed to be. General zoning concepts, goals, and standards always encourage religious use to be in residential areas so that they're closer to the people they serve, and also to discourage use of more valuable commercial property for religious purposes. This general concept is not only supported fully in the City of Naperville Code, but also an application here in Naperville, as can be seen by, that's in the center there, that's St. Margaret Mary Church. It's clearly in a residential area, and is also to note it's the driveways exit and enter onto a residential street. We've got Compass Church, clearly in a residential area, and do note the parking is within 10 feet of the property lines, just as allowed by City of Naperville Code. We have Holy Spirit Church, again, clearly in a residential area, and also clearly having the parking lot within 10 feet of the neighboring residences. St. Raphael, well, that sure looks like it's in a residential area, just where it's supposed to be. And notice the parking within 10 feet of the neighbors. And also note that, this church also exits and entrance is onto a residential side street. And not to forget the Presbyterians, we've got Naperville Presbyterian right here. Again, clearly showing it in a residential area with parking and ingress and egress onto a side neighborhood street. As you can see, these existing houses of worship are located in residential areas with parking located 10 feet from the neighboring lot line and serviced by residential streets. And yet, these neighborhoods where these churches are located are thriving. They're thriving communities supported by their houses of worship, and the houses of worship did not negatively impact the neighborhoods. The last point I'd like to get to from the flyer, I'd like to address, is the question of, it's both an objection and a question, and that is, why are we talking about 5 phases over the next 40 years to build this facility? To better understand the answer, we have to look at the history of the site. In 1998, this 13-acre site was purchased by Hope Community Church. In 1999, Hope obtained a special use from Will County so they could use this property for religious purposes. In 2002, the City of Naperville did their Southwest Sector Plan, the Sector G plan, on how they wanted the master plan for this area and how they wanted development to occur in the future. And in the Southwest Sector Plan, they designated this 13 acres as a community facility, reflecting the church's ownership and intention to expand their use on this site in the future. In 2011, I do want to make a note. This slide I'm showing here, we gave our slides to the city a day or two ago, and they posted that. This slide was not in that posting. There's several of these slides I've added, so I just want to call attention to that. But anyways, in 2011, ICN purchased this property and submitted a petition for annexation and rezoning of the property to R1 for their and indicated there are plans that within 10 years we wanted to expand this property as a religious facility. During the 2011 annexation hearings, and again, this is another new slide coming up, we had multiple public hearings. Now, again, I want to repeat, in the annexation, all we're doing is asking to annex the property into Naperville So in the future, we could build our facility. We had absolutely no site plans, no building elevations, nothing, no engineering, because we didn't know yet what we were going to do. And yet, during those multiple public hearings back in 2011, the vast majority of objections were over what we were going to build in the future. It actually got a little crazy. Some objectors actually created plans and presented them as that these were our secret plans that we're going to build, and it was ludicrous. One of them took the Alabaster Mosque and put it on the site with no stormwater detention, no open space, and we were asked to defend this, and they weren't our plans. We had none. So that we spent an awful lot of time answering questions and fending off, what were we going to do in the future? So clearly, our neighbors were very concerned about what would happen in the future. To alleviate these concerns of our neighbors, as evidenced by the 2011 hearings and being the major point of contention of what was going to happen in the future, we are now presenting our plans for now and the future, the next 40 years. What this does is, What this does is, the community does not have to worry about what's coming up in the future. We're telling them now. By way of example, I say worry about what's happening in the future. Even now, people are saying this is going to be the largest mosque in the Midwest. It's not even close. Now, we can't make it the largest. These are the plans, these are agreeing to, and they're fixed. This is protecting the neighbors, so they don't have to worry about what's happening in the future. Now, as you know, we can't materially deviate from these plans. If in the future you want to build a bigger mosque or a taller minaret or something, we'd have to come back to the city. We'd have to petition the city, notify all the neighbors, and have another public hearing. This is why, with the city's encouragement and support, we have this 5-phase plan. Now, going back to this last point on that flyer I wanted to address, but I do want to make a comment. If I had received that flyer, I would have been signing up as an objector to this project. There's no question. But I think, because if I was confused on it, I'm highly confident all the neighbors were, and I think that's what resulted in a lot of the objections that we're hearing right now. Now, I want to make it very clear. I am highly confident these points were unintentional. No one's trying to, the Homeowners Association wasn't trying to kid anybody. I think it was just an accident. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to address that flyer and the points raised in it. So now, with a better understanding of the facts and background, I can resume my regularly scheduled presentation regarding this project. So, the Islamic Center is the owner of this 13+ acre site located on 248th between 95th and 103rd here in Naperville. It is important to note that in anticipation of the growth from developments such as Ashwood Subdivision, Ashwood Crossing, Emerson Park, and now Islamic Center, 248th Avenue and 95th Street were both designated decades ago as major arterial roadways designed and intended to carry high traffic volumes. Accordingly, the city is planning to widen 240th Avenue between 103rd and 95th from 2 lanes to 4 lanes with a median, and construction at this point is supposed to begin in 2024. This road widening will improve the overall traffic flow in the corner and in this corridor. Now, the Islamic Center desires to develop this site to accommodate a mosque, a school, a multi-purpose hall, and gymnasium. Very similar facilities located on many existing religious facilities in town. I'm most familiar with the Catholic faith, and almost every Catholic church around here has a school, has a gymnasium, has a multi-purpose room, etc. Now, the site will be built in 5 phases over the next 40 years. 1 phase for each of the uses. Consistent with the city code, we will commence the first project within 2 years of the issuance of a conditional use. To be very clear, this is not a 40-year building project. It is anticipated that each phase of construction shall take approximately 1 year. During the construction phases, the Islamic Center will closely adhere to all city requirements for maintenance of construction sites. Additionally, during the non-construction years, time periods, which is the bulk of the time, the grounds will be planted with grass and maintained in a manner consistent with a first-class religious facility, and of course be compliant with all city code requirements. The first phase will be the initial mosque. Construction hopefully will begin in this year, 2021. This will encompass the majority of the ultimate building and many of the uses ultimately planned for the facility. The initial mosque construction will be a 2-story building with a basement, consisting of approximately just over 26,000 square feet. And in answer to Commissioner Bonsal's question, initially, this will provide space for 692 worshipers. It will also include space for offices, conference rooms, washrooms, etc. Times of worship for the Muslim faith. They pray. They pray 5 times a day, 7 days a week, not necessarily in a mosque. The prayer times are generally starting before dawn and ending after dusk, except for Friday, which is their holy day, which I'll discuss in a second. Attendance at prayer times is light during the non-Friday holy days, amounting to no more than 50 to 100 individuals at any one time. These prayer times are generally 1 hour or less. We also see this as seen in their existing locations. It's about a 1 hour service, and just like masses in my parish, and just like at masses in my parish, I'll tell you right now, the 6:30 mass is not widely attended. Now, it is true on Friday, their holy day, they have 2 main services, one around noon and one around 3 o'clock, and these are the most heavily attended services. The first service will attract approximately 400 to 500 worshipers. The second service will have a somewhat smaller attendance. In addition to standard worship times, there will be other services and activities at the facility. Ramadan is their holy time, just like our Easter, and that usually results in a more attended services, just like the Catholics, just as what they call them, the Cheesters, Christmas and Easter. In addition to times of worship, the mosque will also be used for religious requirements of weddings, interfaith activities, and special observances, just like in my parish. Now, phase 2. Now, let me show you in here. Phase 1 will be, here's where the mosque facility will be located. You can see phase 1, and the parking area will be constructed with the phase 1. Phase 2, which is the school, that's this building located right here, and we'll add this parking spaces here. The school will be a 2-story building consisting approximately of about 42,000 square feet, 25 classrooms, space for support activities, offices, storage, etc. Just as at my parish, they have 2 types of schools at ICN. One is a full-time school, and the other is the weekend school, which we always affectionately call Sunday school. The full-time school is intended to provide full-time schooling for up to approximately 250 students in grades kindergarten through 5th grade. There also is a preschool planned. The full-time school will operate during normal school days and school day hours, Monday through Friday. The weekend school is on weekends, and it'll probably occur between 9 a.m. and 12 a.m., and may have up to 500 children attending. Phase 3 is this area right here, and extra parking back in this area, and also along here on our southern border. This will be the multi-purpose hall, constructed approximately in 2040. The multi-purpose hall is a one-story building consisting of approximately 23,000 square feet. It'll be used for conferences, interfaith events, and wedding receptions, etc. The hall will have a full-service kitchen and seating for a capacity of 500 people. Now, I've seen in a lot of our objections that we've gotten copies of, a lot of people are indicating that we're planning a multi-service hall with a capacity of 2,000. We have no idea where that came from. It's really 500. And use of the hall will be mostly on Fridays through Sundays. Now, in this phase 3, this is also the phase in which ICN intends to build their 84-foot tall minaret. Note, this is decorative. There are no stairs. There is no access allowed up in the tower. Phase 4 is going to be our gymnasium. That's this building right here. With the gymnasium, there will be no additional parking added. And this is a one-story building consisting of approximately 27,000 square feet. And it just provides an area for the congregation to a space for indoor activities, volleyball, basketball, open gym time, etc. The use of the gymnasium will mostly occur on evenings and weekends. The 5th and final phase will be the mosque expansion. You'll see right back here, there's phase 5. We're extending onto this phase 1. We're adding on to the mosque. And this is the year 2060. Now, this will enlarge the facility by 3,200 square feet and increase the worship occupancy by 454 worshipers. That combined with our initial 692 means the total capacity of worshipers is just a little over 1,100 people. Now, as we saw in Sarah's presentation, the final elevation will look like this. I want to bring this up to point out, again, our building height is 29 feet. Our neighboring single-family homes height, 35 feet. Our dome will be 52 feet tall, and our minaret will be 84 feet tall. And again, the minaret will be built in phase 3, the year 2040. A big concern with every religious facility ever constructed in the history of man, well, at least since automobiles, has been parking. So now here's where we've got the city of Naperville requirements, and we've got 20 years of experience. ICN's been in town for 20 years and are currently existing 3 facilities, so we've got a good handle on parking. So, as we can see, phase 1 required parking, 249 spaces. What are we providing? 348. Phase 2, 281 required, provided 402. And you can file numbers all the way down. Now, I do want to note, in phase 5, I pointed out that there is going to be additional parking, bringing up the spaces up to 719. In addition to that, we have space land banked for an additional 182 spaces, as can be seen on this slide. So here's the 719 spaces, all in dark. You see around here. Then back here, you'll see the edge of our detention pond. And right here, we've got 182 spaces land banked in case we need them. Oh, again, I apologize. This is a new slide also. Now, this also brings us to our variances. I know Sarah touched on this. We're requesting a variance here on along 248th. What happens is these parking spaces on our far western border are sticking 10 feet into the required 30-foot setback. This helps mitigate, excuse me, we've agreed with the city, we've agreed to add additional mitigation. We are going to install extra landscaping along this area to block the area next to the road. And also remember, we're not facing the fronts of any houses, and the houses across the street are quite a ways away. Now, staff is very supportive of this variance request, and that's because it doesn't really impact any residential area. And in our opinion, the additional this 10-foot encroachment helps keep our entire facility additional 10 feet away from our neighbors to the east. But more importantly, if we can easily take this entire site and move it 10 feet to the east. Okay, 10 feet closer to our neighbors, it's not that big a deal. We can do that. But if we do that, we're going to lose these 62 land bank spaces. Right now, there's 182 total here. It'd be down to 120. So I think we agree. I think the city agrees with us that, you know, if you balance the 10-foot against keeping the facility farther away from our neighbors to the east and protecting those 62 or 60 parking spaces, it's a better balance and a good reason to support our variance. Our second variance request, as I touched on earlier, was our fence. Again, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit here, that we will have full fencing and landscaping on our southern portion here and on our eastern portion here. It's up here on the north where, you know, it just doesn't make sense with this beautiful greenway, this beautiful open space, to have a 6-foot solid fence across that whole area. I think we're much better off with what we've agreed to do, and that is have 30-inch landscaping running the entire length. I think that'll look a lot better and keep a better open look in this area. Probably our biggest legal objection, objection has been over traffic. Specifically, traffic impacting on our neighborhood residential streets. As I noted before, 95th Street up here is a major arterial designated roadway. 248th is. Now, right now, it's, you know, as our engineer calls it, it's a 2-lane cow path. But in 2024, that is being changed to 4 lanes with a median, and that is a major arterial. And also 103rd down here is a minor arterial. So if the neighbors are concerned about cut-throughs through the neighborhoods, it just doesn't make sense to me. If I'm driving from the northeast, I'm coming along 95th, why would I leave 95th to go through a community of side streets to come back out on leave a major arterial, go through side streets to end up on a major arterial to take me to the religious our site? It just doesn't make sense. I don't think, you know, I'm like, can I say there'll never be a cut through? No, I can't say that. Of course there are, but it doesn't make sense. It would be out of the way, slower, and inconvenient. Now, regarding 248th Avenue, I can't say that for some reason. Again, this is another new slide. As noted earlier, and as noted in your agenda packet, that 248th and 95th were designated as decades ago as major arterials, roadways designed and intended to carry high traffic volumes. And again, as I mentioned, the city is going to widen that, and here they think 2024, it's 4 lanes. So this being a major arterial, going to 4 lanes, with our exclusive left turn lanes into our site, where the city is going to do a traffic signal timing on 95th and 248th as part of our work, combined with the fact that our peak traffic times fall outside of peak rush hour times, combined with the fact that ICN, especially before 240th is widened, our Islamic Center has agreed to retain personnel and or police officers to assist with traffic management at our peak times. Now, will that work? Well, we've proven it's worked. We've got over on Ogden Avenue, had a facility for, I can't remember how many years now, and there was a great concern about traffic on that area. We committed to retain police officers and have our own personnel guiding parking and directing on this. And it's been, I think staff can back me up, it's been a tremendous success. My clients are used to it, they're experienced at it, and we're doing the same thing here. So these factors combined assure a reasonable traffic flow with no additional improvements being required. My conclusion is supported by our traffic study. A traffic study was performed by KLOA, a local and very professional and very respected traffic engineering company. Their traffic study was reviewed and approved by the city of Naperville, and it concludes that our traffic is supported on the major arterial roadway with no further improvements required. Also, remember, let's keep this in perspective. I showed you all those other churches, the aerials, and most of them, the parking lots exit out onto, with this Holy Spirit in it, but the rest of them all exit out onto side streets. Here, we have a major arterial at our front. There are no street stubs coming into our lot from any other subdivision, and it'd be actually inconvenient for our parishioner, our worshipers, to use those side streets. So we are better equipped than the site for traffic than the sites I showed you, and those sites I showed you have all been in existence for years, and they don't have a traffic problem even though they go onto side streets. Now, of course, we do have our traffic engineer available on these, should be signed in for any questions you may have. Now, although not in our purview, in your purview or jurisdiction, stormwater control is of utmost importance in any new development. The city has approved our preliminary stormwater plans, and there are a few important points to note. This project will collect, currently, our site, there's no control of stormwater from our site. Stormwater can go from our site right onto our neighbors, to our south and to our east. So this project will, by engineering standards and approved by the city, of course, will collect all water generated by the site and route it to the detention basin. The detention basin will detain the water and greatly reduce the rate of flow leaving the site, which will be a benefit to the downstream drainage system. I didn't know this, I just learned it on this project, but all the tall grass area has to comply with an even more restrictive release rate than the city's normal requirements. Of course, this project complies with the more restrictive release rate. No water will be discharged from our site into properties surrounding the project. All water will be directed into the drainage system in the parkway to the north, which was designed to handle such flows. Again, we have our engineer on hold here in case in the event you have any questions. Therefore, reasons to support our project. It's in the right place. It's in the residential area where it's supposed to be by pursuant to city code. In addition to that, it's on a site that's been designated for religious use since 1999, which was also included in the 2002 Southwest Sector Plan, and also reaffirmed when we annexed the property in 2011 with the city. The plan is absolutely consistent with the former approvals given and on this project. We have also proven 3 times now that we're great. Now, we're not good neighbors, we're great neighbors. A side story, I remember in Ogden, when we put the Ogden place in, oh man, we had some mad neighbors. now it's they're very best friends with my clients. I think some of them will be speaking on our behalf tonight, or or 4 weeks from now when we get back on the agenda. So at this point, I respectfully request your affirmative vote, and of course, I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Len, appreciate that. Let me begin with the commissioners, if there's any questions at this time for the petitioner. All right, that's a first. I guess I have questions for staff that I'd like to go ahead and raise at this time. You know,